first get started in the Batavia Players?
Well, it was kind of funny. I was teaching at Jackson School at the time, and I got a telephone call from Linda Beaver at the time, and she's Linda Hodgins now. And they were doing a Batavia Players play at the Red Osier, and the lead character who played the part of the detective had to drop out of the show. And she said, "Norm, how would you like to play a detective?" And I thought, Sherlock Holmes I get to play. And I said, "Sure, I'd love it." Well, I got there, and I started reading the play, and this Sherlock Holmes, he's not really Sherlock Holmes. I mean, he's really the dumbest detective that was ever on Earth. He comes around with catching butterflies, But anyways, it was a very, very fun part. And I enjoyed working on that very, very first production. And at that first production, I met a longtime friend of mine, and that was Peggy Marone. And it comes to find out she is the villain of the piece, and I get to arrest her at the end. And we became friends ever since. And so as a result of that play, Murder at Rutherford House, I joined the Batavia Players in 1994. And in 1995, I became a member of the board, and I have been a member ever since on the board.
So did you have experience in community theater before the Batavia Players?
Actually, I did. I when I first started teaching, I did have some extra time, and I did several Rotary shows. And then, as my teaching role became more and more involved, I really gave up acting for quite a few years. And so it was like a long hiatus from 1960 to 1994 when I decided to go back into acting again.
Okay. So what do you enjoy about your experiences at the Batavia Players?
Well, I have to tell you, one of the nicest things about working with the Batavia Players is that you get to meet a lot of, first of all, community people, people that you may have known in other roles, but when you get to work with them on the stage, it's a completely different setting. And lots of times you find yourself wondering about this person, and you say to yourself, this person is a wonderful person. Why aren't we connecting on stage? And you have to find out what's happening. And I've been very, very fortunate so far is that most people that I work with, I get along with very, very well, and they get along with me.
Okay. So why do you keep on doing this year after year after year?
Sometimes I wonder, but actually I did have a checklist or a bucket list. And I decided when I started in the 1990s that I made a list of characters that I really wanted to play. And I played them all.
Oh, really?
Yes, I have.
What kind of characters have you really wanted to play?
Well, first of all, I've always wanted to play Shylock. I've seen The Merchant of Venice so many times, and I decided that when I played Shylock, I would definitely play him as a different role. I would play him as a role that he is the victim rather than being the aggressor. And that's the way I played it for the Batavia Players. So that was one role that I really enjoyed playing. And then the other role is all actors want to play is King Lear. Now, King Lear has 1,000 lines to learn. And the best time to play King Lear is when you're in your 80s. And I was in my 80s, and I decided to play the part. And I never realized how hard it is to memorize that many lines and to go through the transformation of personalities of King Lear from an autocratic dictator to a simpering fool almost, and someone who finally realizes the mistakes that he has made in his lifetime. And it's the most challenging role that I've ever played.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite roles?
Well, my all-time favorite role is a role that I've never done for the Batavia Players, but hopefully I will get a chance to do it, and it's called Tuesdays with Maury, because Maury Schwartz and I are brothers. I really feel I love playing the part. He is the most dynamic person I've ever played, the most heartwarming person that I've ever played. Somebody asked me, how could you possibly play a character like that? And I said, it's really, really hard because he was such a good man and so wonderful to be with. So I get to play him one more time, and that's going to be the last time that I do a show.
has Tuesdays with Maury already have been scheduled for Batavia Players?
Not yet.
Not
Pat said, whenever you're ready to do Tuesdays with Maury, let me know. And I said, okay, I will do that.
Okay. So, how do you get into your roles? Like, what's the mindset you get into?
Well, the first thing that I always do is, of course, I go through the script very, very carefully, and I read it over and over again. And now we have the wonderful thing called YouTube, which you can go on and you can see how other characters have played it. When I did King Lear, I had so many questions as to how to play this part, and I watched 8 different characters play King Lear, and each one did it a little. The nuances were a little bit different, and I kind of pick and chose which ones that I really, really wanted to do, and when I put together my final product of King Lear, it was kind of a combination of all of the characters that I had seen playing it. So that's the easiest way to do it. As I say, in the early days when we didn't have YouTube, it was just playing it as what you thought the character was like.
Okay, so you've been in the theater for years now, and you've seen a lot of different people come and go. What do you do to help the newer arrivals kind of get used to the Batavia Players?
Well, it's usually a very, very difficult thing for a very young person to come into Batavia Players, because we are an organization that has a lot of very, very talented people who tend to do shows over and over again. So being a new character is kind of difficult to get into Batavia Players, but once you're into it, you will want to come back over and over again. We had a wonderful theater at Harvester, and it was our home, and we were able to draw a lot of new people at Harvester. Prior to that, we would go all over the community. I can remember when we did Murder at Rutherford House, we did it at the Red Osier. I can remember doing Sherlock Holmes, and we did that at John Kennedy. But now, and of course, eventually we're going to have a brand new theater, which will be right downtown. And then it's so much easier doing a show when you have a home theater to do it in. You can do all of your rehearsals there. All of your costumes are right there. It's so much more convenient and so much more comfortable.
So, how long were you in Batavia Players when you guys went to the Harvester?
Okay, I started out in 1994, and we moved to the Harvester in it's about 2007 or 8 when we actually moved out there, and so all of those years from 1994 to 2007 or 2008, we were on the road continually. And as a result, we only were able to do 4 or 5 shows a year. Then once we got to Harvester and Pat Burke became the director of our shows, we were able to increase so that we did up to 12 shows where we were doing 1 show a month, all different kinds. We did musicals, we did children's plays, we did dramas, we did murder mysteries. So we had a big variety that you could pick and choose as to what show that you wanted to do. And as I say, it was so much easier doing it at Harvester. And once we get downtown, it'll be so much easier for us once again. We have a huge costume room, a huge area where we can store all of our sets. We're going to have a theater that's going to seat over 175 people. We're going to have a changeable stage, and all of those things are going to be just wonderful for us. So looking forward to it and hope eventually it does get built.
Right. So where do you see the Batavia Players going in the future?
I actually see what is going to happen is, as a result of our theater being an expensive proposition and expensive to run, that not only will we be doing shows at our new theater, but we will probably be leasing it out to other groups to use our theater as well. I was just talking to the director at Notre Dame, and they just did Cinderella. And I mean, they did a wonderful job at Cinderella, but they did it in the gym. and you know how the acoustics is in a gym. And they kept saying, it would be wonderful if we could do a show at your theater. And so we would certainly open it up to other community groups or to other high schools that would like to do their show with us. And I'm sure we will have to do that in order to pay our rent all of the time.
Right. So, what do you think it is about the Batavia Players that draws people in from as far as Rochester and Buffalo?
I think sometimes what it is that Pat's very, very good at selecting shows that appeal to people. Many of the shows that we have done, the audience already knows the show, and they are familiar with it, and being so familiar with it, they will naturally come. Well, we've also chosen some shows that the audience is not familiar with, and they get a chance to see a show that they have never seen before. They like it, and they come back. And we have been very fortunate with the number of people who come to our shows, and they come back over and over again because they like the way that we are doing our shows.
Mm-hmm. So what makes the way Batavia Players doing their shows different from other community theaters?
I had a chance to work with several community players. I did a lot of work with the Wyoming Players and with Alden Players, and each one is unique. And I think the unique part of the Batavia Players is that we do shows all the time. The Alden Community Theater and the Wyoming Community Theater did maybe just 3 or 4 shows a year. And if you are really an actor and you like to do a lot of shows, Batavia Players should appeal to you because you will have a wide variety of choices that you can have to pick the exact show that you want to do. Well, basically what I would like to say is that we are going to be going into our new theater. It's going to be an experience for all of us. We are hoping that the people of Batavia will come to our shows is the most important thing. We hope that it's going to seem like when the Rotary used to do their shows, everybody came to their shows because it was like seeing Broadway. And we hope that people will say, well, coming to the Batavia Players show is like a cheaper version of going to Broadway. Or maybe not Broadway, but at least going to Shays. Or if not to Shays, maybe Lancaster Opera House, which is a professional house. We do wonderful, wonderful productions. We do a variety of productions. We have a variety of wonderful actors, and we always welcome new members to the Batavia Players, and they would certainly be welcome this year and next year.